Hey guys, today we're installing the 6th Element mid-pipe for the GR Corolla. Now, I picked this up because I love the stock exhaust. I love how it sounds, I love how it looks, and nobody has released a 3-tip exhaust that I like. So I'm just going to install this to up the sound. 6th Element says there's no power to be gained from a stock car without tuning or improved exhaust. So I'm not expecting anything but a little bit of extra noise. But I am impressed already with the quality. All the welds are good. It's much more piping than I expected, which explains the $400 price tag. And it comes with 2 bolts and a slip joint. So we're going to jack up the car. Thankfully, I have quick jacks, and get under it to install this. I am very lucky to have quick jacks, but that is not a lot of space. So to get this down, you're gonna have to take off this brace right here, this brace right here, and you're gonna have to remove the O2 sensor. It is routed right here and plugged in right there. So I just unplugged it, unhooked it here, and undid the plastic clip from behind right here to pop it out. And now I'm going to use a wrench to remove it. Probably off the car, and let's get these 2 braces out of the way so we can start working on it. All right, I've made some progress, but I did run into the issue where that big brace that's now on the floor, its tabs go into here and here, and you can't just bend this plastic enough to remove it. So what I did was I removed this clip. Now let me get a light. This clip is a pain in the ass because you have to rotate it with a tool, any tool basically, while pulling slightly down. But if you pull too hard down, there's too much tension and it won't spin. But if you don't pull down, because it's plastic, it'll skip on the threads. There's just a threaded stud in here, and pop back up. So just spin it carefully while applying very light tension down, and it'll come out. Then there was a plastic clip here, and then at the end was a 10 mil. I pulled all those down, and this brace just slid towards the front of the car and out. The other brace just fell off, which is great. All the bolts for the braces are 12 millimeter, nice and easy. So from here, I'm going to remove these 2 bolts, these 2 hangers, which I've already started, and if you can see very far away there, 2 bolts on that flange right there. That's going to be hard to get to, so I'm going to try using an extension. We'll see what works. Okay, that was easy. These are 14 millimeter. Just impacted those 2 off, kept the hangers on, reached up there with an extension, not a very long extension, right here. Impacted these 2 off. They're the same kind of 14 millimeter bolt with the spring on it. And that dropped it slightly, and from there I just wiggled it off the hangers and dropped it all the way down. So keep in mind that with this pipe, those hangers face down, and now we're going to have to transfer the O2 sensor to the new pipe and bring it all in here. I have to get out from under the car. This is a look at the pipes side by side. The angle is slightly wrong because the slip joint isn't connected, so obviously this is going to face slightly this way. But now we transfer the sensor over and get this installed. Okay, so the 6th Element mid-pipe didn't come with instructions, so I'm kind of winging it here. But I put the original gasket onto the pipe. 6th Element doesn't include new gaskets, and for our new cars, I guess that doesn't matter. But if you're watching this a couple of years from now, I'd probably get new OEM gaskets. I used the bolts they included with the OEM springs. They don't quite fit the OEM springs as well as the stock bolts because the stock bolts have these collars on them, so this doesn't feel quite right, but the thread is different on the flange, so you can't use the OEM bolts, and considering how long they are, I figured they're meant for OEM springs. This fits perfectly, and I fit the slip joint on here, so I'm going to try to slide this front section into the slip joint and then up into the factory down pipe. That wasn't easy, but I managed it. Putting it up there was easy. Slip it into the slip joint and pop it up there, and it kind of stays in place. The bolts were a pain in the ass to get in because you have to compress the spring a little before they start threading. But, you know, just push down and it'll happen. Took me about 5 minutes, but it's done. And when it comes to the slip joint, there's a slight gap. That should be fine, and the slip joint will take up any issues there. And now we have to torque everything to spec. I will grab a torque wrench and give out the torque specs. All right, so for these two bolts that are the original 14s, the OEM spec is 32 foot-pounds. For these bolts on the back, OEM spec is 32 foot-pounds. These bolts are different, but I'll just run with that. O2 sensor, also 32 foot-pounds. These SXTH Element told me in an email that these are 40 foot-pounds or until the bands touch. So let's get these tightened up with a proper torque wrench because I care about that, and I'll get back. So for those back bolts, they will bottom out before hitting 32 foot-pounds. So just tighten them until it clicks. These click properly. These I had a small issue with, but apparently SXTH Element is aware of the issue. These got tapped wrong at the factory, so the first batch of these pipes is apparently not perfect in the sense that they ship with aftermarket hardware instead of the factory hardware that you're supposed to use. So when you're tightening these down, don't use 32 foot-pounds. Just tighten them until the spring is tight, maybe small gaps between the coils. Mine might be a little too tight, but just make sure that it's tight, but the springs will still give it a little bit of wiggle room. And if you have any trouble, you can always reach out to SXTH Element customer service. They're supposed to be including a paper in each box that explains all this. I didn't get one, so I can't speak to that, but everybody else should get one. And in the future, these will just use the OEM hardware. So, you know, it might be an issue for me. It won't be an issue for most people in the future. But this is my experience, and this is what I'm currently going through. But it's tight. Everything's good. It's time to connect the O2 sensor and button up all the bracing. The bracing gets tightened down to 24 foot-pounds, but this is not critical. I mean, do what you want to. Go for it. Hey everyone, it's been about a week since I installed the Midpipe, but I wanted to give an update now instead of making another video just so people can make up their mind about the product. I've had it for a week, been enjoying it greatly. I love the increase in sound. It did exactly what I wanted. Kept the stock character of the exhaust while making it just better, louder, a little raspier, a little boomier. It sounds fantastic. Probably about 10% increase inside, a little more outside. It's definitely more aggressive outside, so when people hear it, they're gonna love it. A bunch of people were impressed with it as well. This is pretty much how the car should have come from the factory to me. About the issues that I had, I spoke with SXTH Element. It's not going to happen to anybody who buys the second batch, and with the first batch you're gonna get a note about it so you know what to do. So my experience flying blind was an outlier. It's still important to describe it, but this shouldn't be a problem, especially with my instructions helping out. But yeah, overall I'm very happy. It was an easy install, can be done with simple hand tools and preferably an impact, and I would absolutely do it again. Half the fun of a car is the noise, and having both the SXTH Element intake and SXTH Element exhaust really sets it off. So I'm just gonna give a quick rev inside before I end the video. It sounds awesome. So highly recommend the mod. Hopefully this video helps you install it since there's no official instructions yet, and have a nice day.